Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee RT with American Scouser on a Wednesday morning where I am back to being the world's greatest dad. Trust me when I say it, it says it somewhere there. Number one, greatest dad. Number two, greatest dad
Not
has the
today.
number 50th birthday today or somewhere around there. Gordo is with us on a birthday. Happy birthday.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, last night I dragged my son out to go see the White Sox make history and become the worst baseball team in MLB history. It's like 150 years of history. They were going to lose 121 games, and they did what the White Sox do, and they disappointed everyone by not doing what they've been so good at doing all year, and they ended up winning. And then Dad played hooky from work today and sent the kid to school. So I don't think I'm number two dad today. Out late in the rain, and he goes to school, and I get to play hooky.
Yikes. And John over here, all aboards. Yes, the gravy train. We were talking about it on Monday podcast too. What's happening?
Gravy Train or the Nunez Express?
Oh, a new one. A new one.
Yeah. Nah, I'm not getting there yet. But then, yeah. Firstly,
Nice.
I'm aspiring not to be the third greatest dad yet. Just putting that out there, yet. But
Doing
at
anything and everything possible.
some point, I feel like it's gonna happen. But hopefully, the show is still going where I can gladly introduce myself as the third greatest dad, right? So
It's not a high bar to be number two. Let me tell you that. Just by becoming a dad, you might surpass me.
By default. Yes, it's also for your birthday. You're getting the present of Chiesa. Start is the word. So we'll see what happens with that. So we'll talk about the game. That is horrible. But yes, so he is here. Football
Keep him rolling.
flashback.
You can tell he's a dad
All
too.
that. So for the records, how old are you now?
33.
How old are you? What are we?
33.
Man,
Nice.
you guys are fucking young.
still in the prime. Still
Yeah.
in the prime.
Yeah, can't handle ice cream anymore, but I still feel like I'm in the prime.
Right. I mean,
But-
Big Verge is what? Around the same age, right? And he's still dominating the league, right? Still
So
winning
it's
all
still
those
possible. Like the career possibility is still out there for you, Gordon. Never give up on your dreams.
Yeah, that ship sailed when I discovered alcohol.
So okay, hold on. We got to talk about this because if you're not on our Discord channel, actually, this was on the private Discord too. I think to insult the injury, so nobody would have been able to see this. But as we're getting ready for the morning show, like everybody sends links and stuff, and somehow it came about that you are celebrating by getting a tattoo.
Yes. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I've been wanting to get this one for a long time, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it.
So, and it takes what 4 to 5 hours. So you're spending your pretty much day there.
Yes,
Spending your birthday at the
And
park.
honestly, so I was like, I told the guy, I was like, it's gonna have to be on my birthday because it's probably the only time I'm gonna be able to like block off 5 hours that's not working
Right.
that my wife's not gonna get mad at me for. So
Well, you can just say it's a long meeting, honey. Like I'll be at the meeting for 4 or 5.
she's not falling for that anymore.
You come back with a whole ass tattoo as well. It was a pretty productive meeting. It's a pretty productive meeting.
Yeah,
boss
I
really
have to
nails
share
me.
my team schedule these days now. Oh, look at it! It is a meeting. I have it right here. It's on my schedule.
And this is what the third tattoo you said, the second, third,
Yeah, it's number 3.
number 3. Yeah, and John said he's at number 1. Hold on, we have to reveal John's tattoo story, right? You have to share the tattoo.
Oh
story
yeah.
with us.
So this is it right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's well, I don't know. I can't angle it right, but it's basically a sword. It's a Scottish claymore sword with some lightning effects on it. So all my nerds out there, all those big nerds out there, are gonna understand. So the
Actual
story,
footage.
yeah, actual footage, yeah. So this whole thing was the origin of this whole thing was. I'm a big fan of the Dark Souls games. Basically, the Souls-like subgenre of video games, where it's like known for being difficult, stuff like that. From the very first game, which was Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, and then Elden Ring, which is the 5th game of the series. my first playthrough always was completed with one weapon, and that was the Scottish Claymore, which is what I tattooed here on my right arm. Because listen, it's every single game was a unique journey in and of itself. It's a freaking difficult game, but when you actually get it done, you feel quite fulfilled. And I felt like, hey, obviously it was a challenge for me. And then I had this weapon by my side the whole time.
So you upgraded it throughout? Because, like in those games, you keep getting, for
Right.
those of you who don't play these type of games or
Right.
game nerds like us, you get better weapons as you go. Like,
Right. You get better weapons, you get flashier weapons, but nothing beats my old reliable, man. Like it's just nothing. It's nothing too fancy. It's actually based off of a real sword, mind you. Like the game kind of makes it grander. It's a bit bigger than it is in real life, but it's pretty much like an old fashioned, gets the job done, and it's stuck with me through 5 playthroughs of like 100 hours each, so totaling like 500 hours. So I felt like it deserved the tattoo treatment, but I don't want to make it too much about my tattoo because it's Gordo's birthday and he's getting a new tattoo, so maybe he should be the one who should be talking about what he's going to be putting on his.
Shall we?
Yeah, because I feel like I'm rambling here. I'm like, yeah, this ain't about me, man. This ain't about.
Dude, I saw this and I was
though.
like, I thought you were like moving in over there and be like have a new family at the parlor over here. So this is what's taking place today.
Yep, that's what's going on my my right forearm. So, and that's it's an Elven. The words down there is from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. It's the Riddle of Strider. So basically, it's like one line in there, and like I told you guys, like this is when I say this, you're gonna be like, oh, you've probably seen this tattoo on, white women that shop at Whole Foods, and they wear a lot of Patagonia, but it is not
I
all
love the specificity of that. I was like, that is just incredibly specific.
Yeah, it is.
You've seen it. It's on somebody's kitchen, it, but it's not all those that wander are lost.
Oh man,
it goes hard though. The entire poem when you shared it, Gordo, I was like, damn, that goes hard. And imagine that's a good like water cooler kind of thing. Like, hey, you know what this stands for? And then when you just mention it, you feel like $1 million.
Oh yeah.
Why don't you get the sense that you saw this tattoo on a woman in Whole Foods and you're like, must have?
So no, like here's the thing, because I even said like Smash Mouth sort of uses a line from this poem too, and I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. Like I've read everything that Tolkien's written, and when I see people use this in the wrong context, and they're like, I like to hike, like they put it, as their bio on Instagram or Twitter. Like, do you even know what that's from? It's like one of the greatest things ever written.
I'm guessing you're a book guy, Gordo, over the movies.
Yeah,
right.
The book was better, as they say. The book was better. Can't wait for our matching gravy train tattoo, John says. Speaking of matching tattoos, I don't have any. I don't know. Call it because I'm an old fart, and I don't know. I will probably never have any. And that was what I wanted to really do. And Angie has fucked this up for us. Is we like annually after the Christmas thing is over, we go to Vegas for our anniversary and stuff. And one late night I was like, dude, we should do this. Like buy some temporary tattoos, like something really cheesy too, like I'm his and I'm hers or some stupid shit like that. Put the temporary tattoo and then send it to the girls as a text, like like 3 a.m. or something, and be like, so this just happened, kind of a thing. And then we never got around to it, and Angie just told them about it. So, and they're like, oh, we would never believe it. I'm like, you would believe it if it was 3 a.m. coming from Vegas. You're like, how drunk are the parents, kind of a thing. But yes, have spoiled it with us. If you could get any Liverpool tattoo one day, what would you get?
It definitely
he's getting Cody, so
it definitely be like Steven Gerrard with old big ears above his head, like that classic image where he lifts it up in 2005. We went to we were in Liverpool when that game was going on. We were like in a bar in Liverpool, and I'll never forget that moment. It was just one of those things where like there was a ton of people at the beginning of the game, halftime, there's half the people have gone. And just that memorable comeback, just everything about that, just I would get that somewhere on my calf probably.
Hold on, you're getting a lot of birthday questions, man.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you have to do it for real.
No, okay. So for okay,
I think you meant for you too.
Darwin the Goat.
I was hoping not.
What Darwin the Goat said, I did, and I have it in Discord. It's still in there. I said that if Darwin Núñez gets the Golden Boot this season, that I will get a picture of him and Arnie Slot kissing somewhere on my back.
Wait.
It's on Discord. I even made a little image. I'll have to find it up. It was during the summer, and I said if Darwin Núñez is Golden Boot winner at the end of the season, I will get a tattoo of him and Arnie Slot kissing on my back.
Yeah, I would. Yes, now there's something to root for. Definitely not. First of all, if I did it for real, it wouldn't be something like, I'm hers, I'm his, something like it was going to be above and beyond cheesy and classic. And that's probably why I can never get a tattoo, because I would always doubt it afterwards. Like I'd be like, oh fuck, I should have done this or something like that, and now it's too late, and I would never be able to decide it. So. And why have pain if you don't have to? Because I'm lazy like that. So I will pass. Alan says, did we hit the 1,000 mark? No, we did not. I did pass out with Gordo. And, my biggest mistake was I gave Gordo some coasters to pass out at the Chicago Fan Fest as well. So now, after the first half hour, it's already hard to keep track of who you gave to and who you didn't, because it's a bunch of people you're seeing for the first time and they're wearing like Liverpool jerseys. Because I'm like, did I give it to you already? Like, did I give you coasters and stuff? And now I had other people. He was taking away business from me because I would go away. They were like, no, this other guy gave it to him. I'm like, fucking Gordo. Yeah. And I was just like,
I had Finn on my shoulders. I put him in the full kit wanker purple jersey. And I had him on my shoulders, and he was the one passing out the coasters. So, like, I feel like I had more people take them because he was the one handing them out.
If I was based in Chicago, I would have been really up. I'm good with faces, so I would have been a great addition to the team. I would have been like, oh, you're giving him the coaster.
Yeah, it was. I mean, actually, it was funny because I went to like this group, like 3-4 of them. And I was like, hey, I give you guys closer. He's like, yeah, I'm using it. Like he had put his drink on the thing. I'm like, oh, great. It's an effect and stuff like that.
Great. Did you sub?
And that's I think because we were there, I don't think it was. I was hoping, and I didn't want to be like, people are having fun and stuff like that. I didn't want to be like, hey, make sure you subscribe. Pull up your phone. I want to see it kind of a thing. So I was like, hey, take a look and stuff. I'm hoping this is what happens when I go to all these like things at McCormick and stuff like that. You pick up a bunch of crap, then you come home, and then eventually you get to it, right? It's a pile somewhere when you came home. You're like, what was this? What was that? And I'm hoping like people will see it then. Football Flashback says, what is our goal to hit 1,000? What do we say? End of the year, right?
Probably end of the year, yeah.
But now it is Christmas time because I feel like we're ahead of the curve over here. So hopefully by Christmas, so help the cause, spread the word.
By Thanksgiving, we're kind of sniffing it already.
Yes, hopefully, yeah. Like I say, I mean, spread the word. I think the more the word gets spread and shared, I don't know if these coasters will help. Obviously, we passed out freaking hundreds of them, but they might be sitting somewhere, or they might be in the garbage at the Fan Fest too. So,
well, I did. I had you gave me 3 sleeves. And I used up one, went almost all the way through 2, and then we were leaving, and I was like, I'll leave this stack on I think it was either Guinness or just one of the other generic beer stands. I just left it there. I was like pretending, I was paying, and then I just like kind of like, hang on, let me put this here, and then I just left it there, and I'm like,
sure, you forgot your coasters.
Yeah, right.
American Scousers, if you could bring one Major League Soccer player to bring to Liverpool, who would you choose? The problem with this is
we don't watch.
I mean, technically, Messi's an MLS player. Technically, Messi's an MLS player, so I'd take Messi.
Yeah. I wouldn't take Messi. He's going to play once a year.
Right.
I can name Suarez and Messi. I could have named Shaqiri.
Jordi Alba was the left back.
Right.
Busquets. Would you take Busquets as like at 85 years old?
Backup 6
midfielder.
Yeah, backup 6 could do a job maybe against lower opposition. Yeah, why not? A rotation option? Sure.
Probably.
I honestly don't know. I don't watch it enough to say, hey, this guy. Because sometimes, obviously, I watch the Turkish league a lot. And like now I occasionally look at the Spanish league to see if like Arda is playing and stuff like that. And there are times where you're like, that guy's could be a good find. I mean, I had been saying Arda forever and Ferde forever. Unfortunately, Liverpool missed the boat on both of them. Maybe not Ferde yet. We'll probably pay like 70 million to get him 3 years from now, because they got him for 30, I think. Best player we've ever watched.
That is tough.
That's a tough one.
That is tough, because it's like, I find that like the best one really tricky, because based on position and stuff like that. But if you said the most dominant, would it be Van Dijk? Actually, that's kind of like an odd conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna say Virgil van Dijk, because in this generation, or even in past generation of defenders, there have been exceptional ones, but have you had someone just not get tripled past for an entire season, put on the same breath as two of the greatest players of all time, and should have actually won the Ballon d'Or over the undisputed GOAT that season? Well, obviously, I haven't been following Liverpool as long as other people, but for me, it's Virgil van Dijk. With Luis Suarez 13-14 close, but I actually have Mo Salah over him, because as good as that Suarez one season was, I'd say Salah's had one season that was better than it, and like 2 or 3 seasons that were close to it. So I have Mo Salah over Suarez as my second.
Yeah, see, that's hard, man, because Sir John Barnes, for example. I mean,
right? Yeah, I haven't seen Barnes, so I can't.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, we're obviously older, but I mean, like Dalglish. I mean, I don't know. Like, Rush was very dominant in what he did in terms of finishing and stuff back then. Obviously, there's Gerrard's that everybody's gonna mention. I mean, but I think of all these guys I watched. I mean, who can forget Andy Carroll? Yes. But
great job. Great job.
I think of all the guys I watched, I mean, Mo gets close in terms of, but I mean, I don't know, maybe because he's a defender, it's a bit easier, Gordo, to kind of be dominant regularly. As like if you're a winger, you're going to have good games, but there are going to be games where they have your number or something like that. I just feel like I've never seen someone play like Van Dijk where it's looked so often it looked like men playing with boys. That's really hard to do in the Premier League.
I think we like to forget about Torres because he went to Chelsea.
Yeah.
But there was a time when everything that dude touched, and mostly because his passes were being supplied by 2 of the greatest passes of all time. 3 technically, if you count Mascherano. So you've got Mascherano, Xabi Alonso, Steven Gerrard giving the ball to Torres, who literally could do anything with nothing. And like there was 2 seasons, I think, where he might have been the best player in the world. In terms of, I think this question for us and for any actual fan of any team is probably like, who's the best player that you've ever seen that hasn't played for Liverpool? Like, because that's probably a little easier, because we can name.
No, you just made the thing a lot bigger, man.
No. Well, I mean,
the sample size just got huge.
If we're basing it off of players who've played against us, like Hazard has looked absolutely terrifying every time
There were times where you were
every
like,
time,
shit, every time he got the ball,
I'd probably say Hazard or De Bruyne. I would say either of those, or Leroy Sané. Any of those 3. Leroy Sané
is still available, baby.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned him. Like Van Dijk has always made it look like men against boys, not against Leroy Sané. Like he gave him genuine difficulty. I remember in 18-19, he actually was really late, brought him down for a penalty, I think, at Anfield, where I think it was Mahrez who missed. We escaped the draw.
Yep.
But one-on-one at prime Sané, I don't think even Big Verge can take him on with that raw speed. I don't know.
He was one of those guys that when he got the ball, you were like, oh, Ben Woodburn. I remember he was like an next Coutinho for like 2 weeks back then. But so who did you have in mind, Gordo, when you said that? Because you had to have a name in mind. So he says the real Ronaldo, greatest I've ever seen. See, it's like really difficult because, man, like there's way too many. But since you brought it up, Gordo, I'm going to hold you responsible.
Well, now you put me on the spot. I mean, of all, like, I guess maybe even easier, like who I've seen live. Maybe that's a little bit easier. So, it must have been 2016, 17. City came with into Chicago facing Borussia Dortmund, and this tiny little kid with shaved head comes on, and at that point he's probably like 16 years old, and it was Phil Foden, and like within 10 minutes my dad nudges me and goes, this kid's gonna be good. And it was so evident that he was, even in a preseason game, that the skill that this kid had was unbelievable. But that's, I've been fortunate enough, thankfully, like my dad obviously is from Liverpool, and we used to travel all the time to go back to see family, and then we'd spend like another week doing something else in another European city. So I've had the chance to see a lot of good teams and a lot of good venues. So that one's really do. I'd have to really sit down and think of all the games that I've seen.
See, now you open the can of worms, but it's Messi, not even close. Gary Lineker has watched football since the 60s. He even said it's no doubt this Messi because he saw. See, like that's the thing. Like Maradona, for example, man, he was like ridiculous. Like I know the English fans probably don't like him for some odd reason, but I feel. I mean, he was ridiculous to watch. I remember like now I'm going to a decade where you guys didn't know what the hell is going on, but I remember like Platini before he was all crooked in UEFA and FIFA. He was. I mean, that I remember. That Juventus team, I grew up watching that Juventus team with like Rossi and Boni. I mean, I can get you like the entire starting 11 because it was like the New England Patriots of the time where they were on TV like 24/7 kind of a thing because they were the team. And I remember that team celebrating free kicks like it was a penalty kick. The dude was that freaking good. Whenever there was a set piece, they were literally celebrating like it was a goal already because in most cases, it was. I mean, he was ridiculous. But they're like, yeah, this is like way too many players.
I think the best team ever that Liverpool has played is definitely AC Milan Champions League Final 2005. If you look back,
that's ridiculous.
Every time, I can almost name their starting 11 and their bench, and every time I go back and look at the starting, like when you see a clip and then they show like the beginning of the game with the starting lineups, and you look and you go, we fucking beat this team. This is the team that I would have built like as a 9-year-old on FIFA. Like acquiring players. That was an all-star team.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, you look up and down, and that's why they play the games. Because it was like on paper you would think there's no way in hell, but yeah, that like squad was. I mean, that's when Serie A was basically Premier League now, so that's why. This stuff turns in cycles. So let's see what they do with this City thing. I don't know. We talked about this before. Like, we don't know if the money has gone so far out that there's no way back this time. But I think way back then, we thought the same thing about Serie A as well. So it only takes a couple of fiascos. So I wanted to show I think John sent this. John sending things for talking points.
You called him out. It's
not He's been working all week to make it happen now. So, okay, I'm going to play this out and then we'll talk and cuss out Pep. Okay, here we go.
We are talking here about a player that won the Champions League and won the league title. So, and he mentioned himself, Trent, that winning a league is about defending. So it's clear to me then that he's been a good defender all his life. But because he's so special with the ball, the main emphasis goes to him doing special things with the ball. And I think with him, it's not about if he's capable of doing things. It's more his concentration rate, constantly be in 100% focus is where it's more about with him. So this is where we talk about a lot, that he has to stay active in every situation of the game, even if the ball is further away from him.
What is your? I was like, preach, brother. But yeah, what is your takeaway, John?
Champions League and won the league title. So
hold on. Still playing, yeah. He's still talking. Dude, Slut, your job here is done, bro. Okay, go ahead.
What I think here is that there's no instance where Trent feels comfortable enough, especially with a new manager, new system and everything, that he can pull off some of the shit that he's been pulling off defensively the last 2 seasons. So he actually has to show up and defend here. And I feel like the fact that you mentioned Pep Blinders, and Gordon mentioned it quite a bit over the last few shows, that we've created a monster in terms of having Trent get too accustomed to this midfield role where he's sort of putting that defensive responsibility away. And listen, it's always great for us that he would actually get back to default settings and try and cover that right flank. So what my takeaway is, good news for the team. Now, is that going to be the case over the next few years is the inevitable talking point that we're going to get into. But as of this season, a Trent that's focused on defending and also focused on doing what he does on the offensive side can only lead us to great things.
I guess that's my thing. Is more importantly, I guess my biggest fear was any manager that comes in, Gordo, is going to look at this and say, okay, you guys can't defend. Like, you guys are conceding a goal every fucking game in the beginning, kind of a deal. And that will be, I mean, if you just walked outside and had never watched football and I showed you our last couple of seasons, that's probably the first thing you would want to fix. We got to stop the leak, kind of a deal. And my fear was that you would never be able to, like, Trent's mind was gone and you would never be able to revert him back. I guess based on the first month or so that we've seen, I just feel like Trent himself has kind of committed. Trent himself has bought what Slot is selling more important than if we're buying it or not.
Yeah, and I think Matoush said it either on Monday or the Monday before, is like, and I know it wasn't about this specific, but it ties into it. If they're winning games and he's defending, you're going to win anybody over, like with any of your ideals. Yeah. Even if you go in there and you go, guys, give me 3 games. I know this looks ridiculous. Let's play the system. And then you go out and you don't concede a goal and you win 3 games on the bounce. And like, people are like, all right, I'm on board. I didn't like this, but you've converted me. And you keep getting results and people keep giving you plaudits and you still assist and pass because he's gotten a couple of assists this season already. Like, you're still involved in the build-up and you're defending. I think he's going to have full buy-in. I mean, how do you not convince somebody? That's all they're playing for, is to win.
I think that's an excellent point there, because John, he's still getting the assists and he's still going up. I can see, like Gordo is saying, when things are going well, nobody's going to complain. Even if they don't like it, they're going to be like, whatever, I guess it's working, kind of a deal. But while it's working, he's still getting the part that maybe, I don't want to say he values more, but he knows, like, he enjoys maybe doing more or whatever the case, or he knows he gets more credit for. Because regardless of how well Trent defends at the States, unfortunately, people are still going to, like, try to pinpoint one time he got, dribble pass or something like that. So he knows he's going to get the credit for his passing, assist and stuff. So not only things are going well in this new system, he's still getting to do that and getting the assist and stuff. So it's almost like hopefully a win-win for him.
Yeah, it's a win-win. And the thing is that was the case with Klopp's system too. The problem is I feel like he got too comfortable knowing that he doesn't really have someone who's going to take his position outright over him. Whereas now, I mean, I'm not trying to gas him up too much. Like, Connor Bradley's a pretty decent right back, where last year when Trent was out showed that if Trent was out, he can actually kind of fill in that role, and to a very effective degree. So there is, I feel like, that pressure of him just, trying to really secure that position for himself. But at the same time, the cynical part of me is also going like, hey, you'll never walk alone family kind of mentions it here. Maybe because he's also thinking about greener pastures and he's kind of showing his best self, if that makes sense. Kind of like a contract year player where they know that they're going to be leaving. So they got to put their best foot forward on both sides of the ball so they can get maximum. And that's the cynical side, right? I'm not saying that's what he's thinking. That's the
You've grown so much.
Right. That's the cynical side of me going like, oh, maybe Trent was a contract year, so Trent's going like... I blame you, by the way. I blame you. It's entirely your fault.
It really is.
Yeah, right. Like a year or so ago, John would be like, "Yeah, this is going to be great for us," and stuff. He's like, "No,
Yeah.
man, he's doing this." I mean, I guess you can kind of take a look at it that way. He could be like, "You know what? I'll just punch in and do whatever is on the to-do list for
Right.
now, Gordo," and then come in and eventually. I mean, yeah, this helps. This kind of helps the situation at the worst case scenario. So, are you going with the cynical bastard over here, or
You know,
where are you at?
Who would have thought?
even if that's the way, right? Even if that is what he's doing, we're gonna get one of the best seasons we've ever had from one of the best right backs in the world. Like, I'll take it. All right, if that's your swan song, if you're gonna go out and give everything, you're still gonna be involved in the build up of play. You're gonna give us clean sheets left and right. Come on, let's do it. And also, it's good to be cynical, because then if it happens, you're like, I told you. It feels,
so is
feels
it
good.
more of a safety mechanism
Oh
than
yeah.
anything
Oh,
else?
100%. Yeah.
Tim,
I have-
answer me. Like
such a
Gordon's saying yes, but
fragile-
Tim is just looking away here. Is it more of
It
a?
is a little bit of a safety mechanism. I actually have found that over the years, I mean, this is not only sport wise too, though. Like, this
Right.
is in life in general. Like Paul says, wait till you have kids. And I mean, more than kids, I feel like working in management for so many years, I can look at freaking anything now. Like, like Angie's amazed with like the disaster scenarios I can come up with in my head. I can look at any situation and be like, dude, this can go wrong right here. Like, this can happen, and then this will roll. It's almost like a domino thing. That will fall on that guy's head, and then that guy will break his ankle, kind of a thing. So I can kind of like look at things and see what can go wrong, because that's kind of like becomes your job, right? To prevent, plug up those holes. So I think with that experience over the years, now you look at everything like that. But when it comes to sports, you're probably right. That creeps in a bit more, John, about the safety aspect of it comes a bit more. You can be like, yes, I knew it, so that you don't set yourself up for like, disaster. Because if you went around now and saying like, oh, he's gonna sign, I'm sure of it. When he doesn't sign, you're gonna be devastated. Now you're like, you leave the door open, so that, worst comes to worst, you just pull it over and close it.
Disclaimer for the audience. That's why I'm so negative about Nunez. It's a safety blanket. So when he actually comes in 16, I will be the happiest guy. Right. Sorry, Gordon.
It's to protect our fragile
Right,
emotions.
it's to protect our emotions. Because, like, contrary to popular belief, and Tim knows this, there was a point last year where I was on the Nunez Express. I was in absolute first-class carriage before he let us down for those few games. So listen, it's a safety mechanism more than anything else. It's not me hating, it's a safety mechanism. So just a disclaimer.
There's also like a side of it too. Like, if you have been a fan of this team from like even 1990, let's say, and like you've seen and you've probably gotten your hopes up so often
right.
and been let down, that it's like, all right, I know how to protect myself from this feeling, because I've already been like, this is the year. Yes, we're so good. And then like, oh no, we didn't do it again. And so like, if you just like the newer fans, like you'll see it with like Man United fans, like even 5 years ago, we're just starting to get on that train, because it was like, oh, I don't care about this. Like, we'll end up winning the league, and like the very blasé. And then all of a sudden it's like years and years and years go by, and they're like, now they're the cynical ones. It's just like when you grow up, because like my group of friends, the only thing you can get on TV Premier League wise was Manchester United on ESPN whenever there was a bigger game. And then right when most of my friends were starting to really get into it was that Bayern Munich final. And like from then on, like Manchester United were the dominant force, and all of them grew up watching them always win, always competing in Europe. And then that group of friends doesn't, now they're the cynical bastards. They're like not happy about anything. Everything can go wrong. It doesn't matter if we win 7-0, we're like one game, like it's gonna all go to shit next week. So I think it's just like also the length of time and what you've seen from a team that changes your perspectives.
Yeah, Shelton says you grow with pessimism. Okay, let me ask you guys this. So,
did I?
Sergi is calling us.
Did I?
Yeah, that's why these
Jesus,
trains are
man.
very dangerous. They can get derailed very easily. But okay. So let me ask you guys this. I think partially because when it comes to sports, I feel like we've all seen some disasters, right? We've seen the Palace game. We've seen certain things where things can go wrong. So I'll ask you guys this, for example. When are you guys comfortable watching a game in terms of scoreline? When can you say, we got this?
In soccer, or
Yeah, in soccer, you're watching a game, not Golden State Warriors, but when you're watching soccer, and when can you, let's say the Bournemouth game, when did you say, you know what, we got this?
at 3-0, like I'll start first. Right? At 3-0, I wasn't super comfortable yet because I don't know.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know yet because I don't know the system too much. It's been 5 games, right? And to be fair, under Klopp, which was our most successful manager for the last 30 years or so, we've given up 3-0 leads. Tottenham comes to mind last year where we won a few years ago where we won 4-3. So it's not impossible. Right, so if I've never seen us give up a 4-0 lead yet, so I would say it's 4-0.
Oh, here we go. Now you just jinxed that too. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
If we give up a 4-0, I will be responsible. But then, man, the absolute crumbling that has to happen for that to actually transform.
Everton-like proportions of
right, Everton-like proportions.
Because I used to be okay with 2-0, Gordo, but now I always feel like, man, if it becomes 2-1,
right,
the momentum changes. Maybe it's like the FIFA effect. And I'm like, dude, the momentum changes, and it's very likely, and honestly, like you see it in the team, so especially if it's towards the end of the games, you can see a panic in any team. Obviously, that's when you see the maturity of the team is like how they control that. But you can see like teams panic. I mean, look at freaking that Everton game, for example, right? With like Bournemouth and stuff like that. So even 2-0 now, unless it's like the 80th, 85th minute and stuff like that, I'm always worried that, hey, 1 goal and we can finish this game on pins and needles again. So 3-0, I'm shocked, man. John has come around and lapped us in terms of like.
It's because I've seen it happen. It's because it's the simple logic that I've seen it happen. I might be simplifying it too much. It's just because I've seen it happen. But y'all go ahead. Sorry.
How about you, Gordo? When can you lean back, as they say back home, and watch the game?
You probably 3-0. Yeah, I was like, I might have jinxed him last game because when we were at the Fan Fest, I turned to my buddy that went with us, and I said, if I bet, or I said on the pre-match, or like in the comments, I said it was going to be 4-0, and I think I'm going to be dead wrong because I think it's going to be 5 or 6. And then they didn't score again. So,
and does the system make a difference? Like, have you guys seen that? I feel like in the past we would be a bit more. I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, this is going to keep going like 4, 5, 6 and stuff like that. But I feel like because we play much safer, I think we're going to cut a lot less with our pants down. So it would not be, like I am more comfortable with 3-0 than I have ever been.
The thing is, Tim, I wasn't comfortable as well with the 3-0 last weekend because we were allowing so much shots. Like, I know y'all talked about this already on the Monday podcast a little bit, but I don't know. Kind of like the nitpick I have for last week's win, obviously 3-0, and we were kind of dominant most. We were allowing them so much chances where I feel like Kelleher was tested way too much. Like 3-0 isn't necessarily an accurate reflection of the scoreline. I actually think 5-3 would be more accurate because like Bournemouth got in, managed to get some shots away. Granted, only I'd say 2 were big chances. Yeah. But then for a guy like Arne Slot, whose primary like mantra for his style is control, like it looked like a Klopp team out there at times, honestly. Like for that particular game. Like the games before, I saw it, but not against Bournemouth. Well, obviously it's an isolated case,
Do you think, though, that that's because when you're in a position like that, you kind of revert to what's most comfortable? And so, like, they might not have been playing slot style. It might have been like, oh, I'm feeling the game. I'm having a good time. And you just kind of, like, stop. You kind of forget or take yourself out of the job portion of it of, like, all right, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that. You're just like, it's 3-0. Let's have a good time. And, like, most of these players have only known this Klopp system. And maybe they just, like, fell into it.
That's the glass half full perspective that I would love to grab right now, if not for Timuchin influencing me over the last year or so.
Why do I get all the goddamn blame? But yeah, I mean, I think that is a good point. That's probably what it is. You kind of get relaxed, and maybe you think the game is over, and then you start. But the problem is, and that's why I'm paranoid at 2-0, for example, because it's very hard to flip that switch back, and it takes some time. And by the time you flip it, you might get a second one in. I feel like 3-0, you're like a lot more comfortable doing that. But here's a good question, and then we'll get to the West Ham game next real quick. But who do you guys think is our player of the season so far?
I think you can skip me.
Yeah, we'll skip you. Gravenberg, Lucho, Mo.
I feel like is this one of your friends, John? Because I feel like you set me up, guy. Because I have to say Gravenberg too, because he's the only one that had a good game against Nottingham Forest. So like he's been the one that's consistently had a good game. And so if you look at it, he's 5 for 5 right now, in my opinion.
Shout out Big Virgil though. Like
I was going to show that actually because I think he sent this as well. Look at him prepared for the show, but hold on, let me show this over here. Hopefully,
I got called out the last time, so I had to.
Yeah, so the most interceptions out of any defender. Have we gone back to when it comes to Van Dijk, and we did this in the past, and this is why I say, when we were having the conversation earlier about like Van Dijk being like the most dominant, it came to a point where you put that as a given. Like for at least like a couple of seasons, you were like, well, Van Dijk, obviously he was great, and then you looked at everybody else, he was almost like by default really solid and good and stuff. Are we going back to that Gordo where we kind of almost like looking past Van? Because it's not like he played poorly in that Forest game either. It wasn't like a defending issue that we had for the most part. We just could not finish and create. Have we gone back to the point where Van Dijk is almost being overlooked for how solid he is?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's you're starting to expect it again. It's not like, wow, you had another game that reminded me of old Verge. It's like, yeah, I think even last year there was like stretches where he was playing phenomenally, and I think that's kind of he fits into the system. He's the captain. He's got it just the way he carries himself. It's just like you just kind of take it for granted, basically.
Build Club Statue says, I love Van Dijk, but I think Konate has been better. He's been out of this world. Literally has no weakness, has to do the dirty work for Verge. Really? I mean, that's a little.
Well, it's because Verge has to sweep up.
I was just gonna say they've been playing a stopper sweeper, which is very rec league American soccer.
Old school, baby. Old school sweeper.
The Diamondback 4. Yeah, I've been noticing that where like Konate's been allowed to step up further and Verge is kind of playing back. But A, he's older, and B, he's earned that. He's earned that right.
And I think he's reading of the game.
That's what I used to do, the good old days where you can play sweeper and kind of clean up. And, it looks like your tackles are a lot easier, but it's still, you have to be smart in terms of your spacing and timing and stuff like that. So you can come across and sweep. Go ahead, John. You were about to.
Yeah, I was about to say, if he's actually, I don't know, the best sweeper I've ever seen, best game reading I've ever seen. Because, like, obviously, we look at the aerial duels one, like the duels one and stuff like that for Virgil, and we take those numbers for granted. It takes insane reading of the game and timing and all that to win all of those headers. Like, we take it for granted because he does it all the time, but it just speaks to his level of like reading the flight of balls, like reading where the positioning of the players are going to be. Bournemouth striker number 9 gave Konate quite a bit of trouble during the first 5 minutes of the game. He tried to switch over to Verge's side, and there was an instance where I think there was a long ball played to him, and it was 1-on-1 against Verge, and Verge just headed it away nonchalantly. And he was like,
the one he did it to Robertson, he was like, here.
Right, and he was like, I'm not going back and taking on this guy. I'm sticking with Konate, who finally adjusted and was bullying him all game long as well. So that's the challenge, right, for strikers. And I would say, though, like I'm going to go out on a limb and say, people talking about Saliba and Gabriel as the best, defensive center back pairing, those guys have the benefit of a style that protects them more often than our center backs. Like under Klopp, like you see Konate and Virgil exposed like thrice every game. Like listen, with Slot here and with a more somewhat conservative style that protects them more, I think we're really going to see them kind of blossom this year in terms of defensive numbers.
I prefer Slot as a manager. I prefer one of these Legos the kids have in the other one of the other rooms than Arteta. I would put it over there, same shits. And I'd rather lose than have Arteta, I guess. But that's a good question. Let me ask you guys this. Oh man, I want to get to the West Ham game, but real quick, because the Rodri injury, Bill Kloppenstacher was asking about it earlier. Obviously, kind of like makes a twist. We saw what Arsenal can do. So as of now, after that game and where we are at right now, Gordo, who's a bigger threat? If we're gonna make a run for the title, I think it's still too early to get all excited and run around. But if we're gonna make a run for the title, who is the bigger threat right now to you?
It's always going to be City. And with Rodri and KDB, I mean, we even saw KDB out for a significant period of time last year, and they hit a hiccup. So somebody as pivotal as Rodri, because I think the crazy stat is like they've never lost a game that he started, which is wild to think about. So if he's out for the season, I mean, that's a huge blow. I saw some reports that like, oh, watch, City are going to get Zubimendi in January.
I can see that too.
That would hurt so bad, and that'd be one of those things that like, oh, he rejects us, and then he goes to City.
I mean, that would be odd, especially with the charges going.
Right, I was gonna say,
like, I mean, I'm sure you can put something in the contract or whatever, but I mean, honestly, when the injury happened, that's the first thing I thought as well. Like I was like, that would be kind of crap. See, Stephen Cook says he's seen the Turkish one as sweeper. It was a virtual. Just half the size. But
I got some stats for just to prove that Arsenal's. I don't think they're as good as they are. They're going to be as good. So, all right, this is also saying that they've had City away, Villa away, Tottenham away. Those are pretty rough away games to start the season.
Right.
But there's only 3 teams in the league that have worse possession than them. It's Nottingham Forest, Everton, and Ipswich. They're 17th in possession. They're 16th in goals created. They're 17th in accurate passing per match. They're 8th in XG conceded, and they're 1st in reds.
Really? See, I mean, is that because like this last game skewed it so much? Because that's like possession.
That's just one game though. Like you'd expect them to get more possession against Villa and Spurs and all that. Like even though it was a tough game, they are man for man the superior team. So,
but the results, I mean, they're still in top 4 with all those terrible possession stats. But for them to be in the bottom, almost relegation zone of those stats, for lack of a better term, those are some rough ones.
Right.
Who do you put, John? City or
still City? It's no question. Like,
well, what is it of Arsenal then? Let me ask you guys that then. What is it of Arsenal that? I mean, City, I think partially because just out of experience, right? We kind of learned not to write them off. They're gonna eventually come back. These fuckers will find a way, kind of a thing. But when you guys pick City over Arsenal, what is it about Arsenal, John, that you say, nope, they're not there yet because
they haven't won anything? They have not won anything. They don't know what it takes to win it. Like everyone clowns Klopp for only having one title, like only having one title against a corrupt institution, right? But like, what have you guys done during that period? But I digress. Listen, we've had multiple 90-point seasons where we would have won the league easily in any other era. So regardless if it was just one title, we could have won 3 any other day or even 4. Right, so we know what it takes. We've gotten to that level. Arsenal, listen, like they have a good squad, but for me to take them, like, and obviously, who gives a shit about what I have to say, right? I'm saying it for the show, but for me to take them seriously, they have to at least get over the line once and see that they can do it. It's just human nature, right? For you to start taking someone seriously, you got to see them actually do it. So you're always going to give City the benefit of the doubt here, regardless if they're missing what like 3/4 of their squad. I'd still go for City even if they're missing 3/4 of their first team. So it's just the logic that logic for me.
How about you, Gordo? Like, what do you see that you're like, nope, it's still City?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with just City always find a way to win. Arsenal seem like they can screw themselves up. Like I don't think we'd have seen if the roles were reversed. I don't think City would have given up that second goal, even if they were a man down in that game that they played at the weekend. So if they came from behind, they scored 2, they had a man sent off. I don't think we see Arsenal get that equalizer. And also like the way they play, is a lot different. But I think squad depth too has a big impact, like Sparky said. It's just when the chips are down, are they going to have the ability to move pieces in? And that's partially our biggest concern too, right? Like if everyone stays healthy, this is going to be a great year. But we have a lot of players that normally do not stay healthy. Yeah. And what happens in that point is really what makes or break a team. And I just think that, Pep's much better at managing that. He's also got a much deeper squad. And so they're always going to be the issue because they'll pick up points. But if you look historically in the last decade, they've always been worse. And this is saying worse very, very lightly. They've always been worse in the first half of the season. And then they go on massive tears from January to May. And so if they're still third, second, first at December, you could probably guarantee that's where they're going to finish, somewhere in there.
Lucho was saying, it might be crazy to say, I think only 3 players get into our team: Saliba, Rice, and Saka. And somebody was only taking 1. I mean, Rice, you're definitely taking probably, right? Because, that fills a big void kind of a thing. I'll take Saliba. I mean, I don't know if starting 11, but if we get into that conversation, it will take hours over here. But I think Lucho was saying earlier that he just hits the like button to make it 10. So your job now is to make that 11. But yeah, as always, thanks a lot for joining us this morning. All the likes and stuff. Give us a share, spread the words. 1,000 by Mateusz said Halloween. So that would be scary if we get to 1,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had to go down for this. Okay, so real quick, going into the West Ham game, which we will be back for the pre-match, will be hosted by the most cynical one over here, John.
Okay.
Hosting the pre and post festivities. But what do you expect to see as a lineup? Do you expect almost like a full difference 11, 5-6 changes, 1-2 changes? What do you expect to see, John?
Hopefully quite a few. Obviously Kelleher as our goalie because Ali is injured. Bradley Gomez to get his first start at CB. Like we've been talking about CB depth. People forget that we still have Joe Gomez on the team. Hopefully we kind of get him going, kind of get him in the mood so he decide to stay because if he's healthy, he's a critical player for us, being that kind of Swiss Army knife dude. So Kwanzaa partners him, Costas, Endo to get his first start of the year. I love Endo, but I'm obviously still worried about how he is in this system. Jones, I think, partners him in the pivot. Now, attack is where it's going to be interesting because Jota didn't play last week. So I think he plays as the 10, honestly. We give Mo a rest, play Chiesa at the right wing, play Gakpo left, and I would put Nunez in just to keep the confidence up.
And who did you put behind? I'm sorry. Who did you put as the attacking mid?
Jota.
Oh, you put Jota. So you put that's like my FIFA lineup that Mateusz.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we don't have Harvey. Dom has been right. Like Dom has been playing every single game. So I feel like you got to keep Darwin in there, man, because you got to keep the confidence rolling. This is exactly the kind of game where you could bag 1 or 2 and then get things going. So that's my lineup there.
I'm taking what he's selling over here, which I think the only thing he swapped is he took Jota out and put Morton and pushed Curtis up, which I'm bigger on, I'll be honest, as well, because I don't trust Curtis as much back there. Like he's going to get caught on the ball and stuff. But Gordo, what do you expect to see?
Sorry, Tim, you trust before Gordo, you trust the youngster more than Curtis?
Yes, because it's a mindset thing. I think Morton will know not to fuck around, and whereas Curtis kind of has got, I mean, probably unfair on him because this is based on preseason, but just based on what I've seen on preseason, saw more Curtis of the old that was a problem Curtis, kind of getting caught on the ball and trying to do too much, as opposed to the Curtis that we really liked last year where he was playing within the system. I think doing that attacking works a lot better, and I think he'll still put the defensive work in that, like Szoboszlai does when he plays that. But yeah, I think that's the only why, to be honest, John. I think it's like a mindset thing. I trust Morton not to screw around. I mean, you might get caught in the ball. You might make a bad pass. Any player is going to do that. But Morton is going to take less risks, I think, than. Mind you, that's a scary midfield. But Gordo, what do you have?
Yeah, I'll answer this and I'm going to bounce so I don't miss my appointment. But yeah, I'm with Sparky and You'll Never Walk Alone family. It's 9 changes, that's exactly 9 changes. It's Kelleher and Darwin that stay stay in the team and everyone else gets switched. I like that. Rotate them. We go out there, whatever happens. I don't think anyone would be upset if we lose. It's Carabao Cup. It's less stress on the team. We already don't have a deep team, and I think other people, like, there's other competitions. We won Carabao last year. Let's win something else if we want to go after a title. So rotate the team, give everybody a rest, and I do think we'd still win with that lineup. So
what's the prediction, birthday boy? What is your birthday wish?
I'm gonna say 3-1. West Ham scores first.
Why would you even do that? Go get your tattoo, and that needle will teach you.
I'll see you guys. Thanks everyone for the birthday wishes. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday, man.
Love you guys.
Never ever do that again.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. That caught me off guard, man.
That was his IG moments. He's getting worse as he gets older. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna head out too. It's not like we're sticking around, and I'm not even getting a tattoo. What is your score prediction, John?
I'm gonna go with the special as well. I agree with Gordo. I think they're gonna score first. Catch us with our pants down, but it's gonna wake us up.
Yeah, I think I went with a 3-0. I go with a 3-0. I think we play controlled. I do worry about the lack of cohesion causing a mistake and stuff like that, but I kind of trust. It's weird to say this, but I kind of trust Slot a bit more in terms of making that adjustments. As opposed to in the packs. Alan's going with the tuition special 3-1, which I'd be totally cool with. It's going to be interesting. At least it will be good to see like Kesa in action, like get these guys some minutes. And this is the only reason I want to keep going on this. I know we don't care, like people to say, oh, it's only the EFL and stuff like that. But the good thing is it gets these guys minutes that do not normally get minutes. So when you do need them in a game, you can plug them in and it's not like, oh my God, the rust and stuff like that. So that's the only reason that I do want to stay in this tournament. Won't make 9 changes, won't play more than, certainly won't play other than the 10, and 3-0 us. I agree with the 3-0. I agree with the 2 as well. I can see him making the 9 change. It's going to be, I mean, a good point by Lido. It's going to be interesting to see if he does that or if he still keeps going with minimal changes. I highly doubt it. I could see it in the Champions League and I got why. I just don't think he does it. Not to mention, I would assume like these guys have been told, kind of like what we did with Keller in the past, right? Like, hey, this is your tournament, kind of an ordeal. So I would think a lot of these guys that are in practice every day, busting their butts, will expect to play in some ways. And I don't think you want to mess that up by not playing them. I mean, I realize these guys are professionals. They get a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of like player psychology and having them ready at the same time, John, I feel like it's extremely beneficial in both ways to play them.
Yeah, it is. Like, we need a big squad to compete on multiple fronts. And we are relatively thin at some positions too, worryingly. And listen, we talk about Curtis having a shaky start at the double pivot. We talk about Endo not being a fit. But how are these guys going to get accustomed more to that role? But if we don't play them. So listen, this is their opportunity to kind of prove that they can be in this squad. This is their opportunity to kind of show that they can fit here. Although if we do start Martin and he does show some positivity, I do agree with you that Curtis should probably be at the 10, because I believe it was someone who mentioned it a few games back that what can Szoboszlai do that Curtis can't at this point? Because although Szoboszlai has the speed, in terms of where making the right pass and then making the right decision with the ball, like I'd probably say Curtis could improve on some of this stuff that Sobo's been, some of the decisions that Sobo's been making over the last few games. But listen, it's going to be an interesting conversation when we see the lineup, because hopefully this is the game that Arnie chooses to rotate, because I don't know if we're going to raw dog it for the next few games, man, going with the same exact lineup for how many straight games. I don't know if that's the wisest thing to do. But then again, I'm not in charge of Liverpool.
Yeah, Lee says 5 starting, 5 from the bench. It's going to be interesting. I think that's one thing to look out for. This is probably the first time in a long time where I'm going to be like, I can't wait for the lineup to come up and see what he did, kind of a deal. I think the other ones we were not too shocked. Maybe in the Champions League game, we didn't know if he was going to rotate or whatever. But You'll Never Walk On Family says 4-1 Tias, Chiesa to score and Jones to stand up. And I'd be all for that. Here's the hoping in the post-match we're talking about who can kind of make their way in after this performance into the starting 11 and stuff like that. But to be able to do that, you have to get to the game first. And to do that, you have to get to the pre-match first. And to do that, you got to get online and join John hosting the pre-match show with a bunch of our contributors. As always, once the lineup comes up, those boys will be on the air. And here's to hoping for a win. Thanks a lot for everything today. All the likes, comments, really appreciated. Do the sharing as well. Spread the word. 1,000 by... Halloween is so aggressive, but what the hell? Let's just go with it. We'll see where we get. But yeah,
Halloween is the clock goal. The slot goal is Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Let's go with that. But
Right.
You can only help us out by giving a share and then grabbing a friend and saying, hey, you got to subscribe to this channel over here. But have a great Wednesday, everybody, and we'll see you guys for the game. Take care.